call of the Lord goes out tonight to come home. From Daniel chapter 5 we read, Belshazzar the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine before the 1,000. Belshazzar, while he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives and his concubines might drink therein. Then they brought the golden vessels. They were taken out of the temple of the house of God which was at Jerusalem, and the king and his princes, his wives and his concubines drank in them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and of silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against another. This is quite a turn of events. This didn't finish the way it started. If you can picture what it must have looked like that night as they had this feast all prepared, Belshazzar and 1,000 of his lords, wining and dining, the ruling cliché. They had gone far enough, but that still didn't stop them. They must go further. They had done enough when they drank as they did and drank to their gods. But enough will never do if you're bound by the enemy of your soul. Just going so far will not finish it up if you're bound by the devil. There's no limit to what the devil will do if he has control. How many people have said, "Oh, I would never do that"? How many have said that they would never try the hard, cruel things that many people try? When one doesn't have control of their own lives, how are they to tell what they'll do? The men who shoot other men in cold blood many times didn't plan it really ahead of time. But in the heat of a flash of temper or in some drunken brawl somewhere, they do things that they know they ought not to have done. A reasonable man would not have done it. Who said a man that's bound by the devil is a reasonable man? Why do people act like they do? Unreasonable? Of course it is. This man testified about having given up all hope of ever being decent again, living right and doing right. There's no reason, no good reason about that. To do something that's going to get a hold of you and lead you further and further. He didn't start out years ago to say, "I'm going to get married, raise a family, have a nice wife and 4 children, and then I'm going to run off and leave them and be a bum." That wasn't his plan. Neither did Belshazzar mean to do what he had done. Would Belshazzar make a great big feast and just go one step too far, knowing all the time that this night, old fellow, you'll meet your end? There'll be a hand up here on the wall and write out your future for you before the night's over. He wouldn't have written that kind of a ticket, would he? He didn't know where he was going. You don't know where you're going unless you let God lead you. Don't you say, I'll never kill anybody. You might do it. Don't say you never curse your own mother. Many boys have done it, and girls too. Don't say you'll never forsake your own children. Say that you won't do these things, God being your helper. Say that you purpose not to do that if God will keep your vision open where you can see what's right, what's wrong. And then say, if God gives me grace and gray matter to follow, understanding, I'll do this. But always remember, it takes God to help you do that. A man without God is just like an animal. He has a soul, and animals don't. He can understand right and wrong for a while, but after a while, man sears his conscience by doing wrong until he seems to be unable to distinguish between what's right and what's wrong. Liars who always lie didn't get that way overnight. They started out by telling little white lies, just being deceptive about this and that, hiding their actions, covering it up, then lying to get away from that, and always blame someone else for it. But they told one lie and two and three and 10 and 20 until finally it became a way of life. They were just as deceitful as they could be. Lie all the time. People that steal, they start by little things. Piece of gum out of a store, a dime out of the mother's purse, little material off the job, little money from the till at work. A little. They didn't think at the time what you are doing is you are becoming a thief. When you steal one thing, you are a thief already. When you lie once, you're a liar. When you pull something crooked or deceitful once, then that's what you are. But people wouldn't say so. Who would walk up and say, I'm a liar because I told a little white lie? But we are. If we lie, then we're liars. This man had this great feast, 1,000 of his lords. He drank wine before the thousands. They had all this drunken party, but they got just so far and said, we must have those golden vessels that are over there in the treasure house. These came from Jerusalem, a holy temple, a beautiful place, built as God said build it, furnished with the finest of provisions because God had said make it thus and thus. But these heathen people, Nebuchadnezzar coming from Babylon, came over there and laid siege to Jerusalem, took a bunch of captives back east with him, and with these captives he took these beautiful golden vessels from the temple of God. Valuable, beautiful. He knew what he was getting. He didn't go in there and scoop up everything that happened to be glittering like gold. They knew the wealth of that. They knew it was real. They took it over to Babylon, and it was so valuable they took and locked it up in a treasure house. They didn't keep that out somewhere on the shelf where everybody could see it and get hold of it. It was valuable, and they knew what they were getting. So it was all locked up in the treasure house. But this night, the party goes on. Belshazzar, the man who was king by now, he remembered those special vessels, godly vessels, consecrated vessels, vessels to be used in God's service. And he said, bring those over here. Go over and open up the place and bring over those golden vessels were brought from the temple in Jerusalem. We've got to use those too. He's going step by step. You watch him. Already drinking, already having a high party, but that won't do. No, I've got to do something else. There's something within the heart of a sinner that just drives them on and on and on. They just can't be satisfied. Give them what they want, that won't do. Something right down deep in their heart there that's not satisfied by drinking, stealing, lying, parties, money, prestige, power, influence. That'll never work. This man was a king. He said, let's have a party. They brought 1,000 lords together. He could snap his finger and people jumped. His word was a matter of life or death to these people, and yet he couldn't be satisfied. Bring those other vessels. Let's get one more thing yet. Don't say you wouldn't do it. You don't know what you'd do. Many people as smart as you are, as smart as I am, have done things a lot more foolish than we think we'd ever do. He did it. Belshazzar did. He could have had them made vessels twice as valuable as those. They could have melted down gold and made big vessels. Babylon was a fabulous place. They paved the walls with value. Gold aplenty, precious stones, it was fabulous. And yet he says, go get those vessels and let's use them. So they brought them in. And they drank wine out of these special vessels. They'd tip up the vessels and drink. And they would praise the gods of gold, silver, stone. Every god but the one they were defying. They were literally defying the Almighty God. They were literally doing the very one thing that they knew that they should not do, and they meant to do it. They meant to do the very one thing that would show that they would do what they pleased. They would not care. Who should they apologize to? Men do that too. Men go and steal someone else's wife just because they want to do what they want to do. And some wives leave their own families and go for other men just because they want their way. They know they ought to do it. Heartbreak awaits them and they know it. Divorce courts, split up families and all of that, yet they'll say, I want that. They have a wife, but they want another one. They have a husband, but they want another one. They have things to satisfy, a home, a car, but that doesn't satisfy. Don't say you won't do it. People have done it. Intelligent people. People who are smart enough to know better. They have done that because they are not controlled by their own desires. They are controlled by the devil himself. They were not children of God. They were children of the devil. And when you sell out to the devil and begin to do a little, move a little, go a little the way you know you ought not to go, the end of that road is a different story. This man did that, and when they drank to the gods of gold and silver, all the gods except the God whom they were defying, then, right then, what's the timing on this? This was exactly right. Just then, when they did this, on the plaster of the wall there appeared a hand. Not the whole arm, just enough of the hand to see. Just enough hand to see it was a hand. And it began to write a strange language. Strange language. Not English, not Arabic, not Japanese. No. This was something the wise men couldn't read. They had them, lots of them. Intellectuals, doctors, educated men, philosophers. They had it all. And they called them in to read the writing. They couldn't understand that. That's a new one. Never a language like that men ever read. That's new, something new. So they were stymied. They couldn't help. Finally, the king's wife said, I've heard about this man Daniel. He's already interpreted dreams for your father before you. Why not call him? So they called him, and the king said to Daniel, after he stood there quivering and shaking, knees smiting together like this, he said to Daniel, if you can read that writing and tell me the interpretation of it, I'll put a royal robe on you, a gold chain about your neck, He's going to fix him up. He's going to give him anything he wanted. But Daniel said, let your gifts be to someone else. I'll read the writing and tell you the interpretation. God used Daniel then to read the writing, and the writing read a message that when Daniel read it, it scared him to tell it. To tell this haughty monarch what was there. But he said, tell me, what does the writing say? He went ahead and read then that this writing said, this is the writing, mene, tekel, upharsin, whatever language that was. This is the interpretation. Mene means God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. It is all finished. Everything done has been done. Nothing more to do. God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. Thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet, put a chain of gold about his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. Wind up of this. In that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain. Very next verse. The handwriting on the wall we refer to now as being a saying that it is all over. It's just finished. It's just there, evident, there to see. Let's not remember the significance of it. We aren't Belshazzars. We don't live in a palace. We don't drink from vessels of gold. We don't have 1,000 lords together for a feast nor banquet. So we aren't going to play on that same stage. But how about what you are trying to do? How about the way you do live? How about the way you have been going? How about that? How far have you gone? What have you said? What have you said you wouldn't do? What have you said about your mother's prayers? Your father's exhortations? What have you done with the godly advice you've had? What about the Sunday school teacher's admonition? How about their prayers? Remember, when Daniel came to tell Belshazzar this message, he reminded him that Nebuchadnezzar, your father, had his chance. He walked before the people and strutted himself one day before Babylon and said, is not this great Babylon I have built? God took his reason from him. He went out in the field and ate grass like the oxen do. His hair grew long like feathers. His fingernails grew long like birds' claws. This you know all about. You lived through it. You've heard about it. You know it. And even though you've known all of that, look what you've done. Yeah. Look what you did. Tonight, you have defied the God that you have heard about. Nebuchadnezzar learned his lesson. His reason came back to him later. Then he extolled the name of God. He honored God then, and you knew he learned his lesson that way. You knew what happened. In spite of all of that, you have not done right. You have done exactly wrong, so it's all over. It's all over. There's coming a time when that will be the message for other people besides Belshazzar. There's a deadline that people cross. Not just kings, not just drunken people, not just rich people, not only poor people, but young people, middle-aged people, average people, people just like you and just like me. There's a deadline over which it's possible for men and women, or boys and girls to step. No one knows where the deadline is. That's in God's own knowledge. Had Belshazzar known this that night, he would have backed up short of that. He wasn't dumb. He was just bound by the devil. He was just blinded by the own grandeur of his own kingdom and his own power. He didn't see spiritual things. He didn't glorify God. He didn't honor God. He set himself up as against the commandments of God. He did what God said not do, and he was condemned for it, died for it. That not. You may not die before morning, and if you aren't saved, don't get saved tonight. We pray God will be merciful, but God doesn't always answer every prayer people pray just because they pray them. If your mother has prayed for you for years that you would be saved, she might pray tonight, oh God, spare him one more night. That doesn't mean just because a lot of her prayers have been prayed, they're all going to be answered. There comes an end. There may be a time when her best prayer, her faithful intervention before God may not suffice, because there comes a time when you have to answer yourself. When you have to say, yes, I will. Your mother can't decide for you. If she could have, she'd done that long time ago. Your dad can't make every decision for you. You have to yourself. So they can pray and pray, but you must answer. Nebuchadnezzar had learned his lesson. Belshazzar had to learn his. How tragic for people to have to learn things the hard way. But that's better than not learning at all. The most tragic is to learn the lesson too late. How tragic, how tragic. How are we going to be sure we won't be too late? Do it tonight. That's the only way I know to end up this, is to say, how are you going to take care of this and be in time? There's only one way to be sure. That's all. Not two, not three. We wouldn't dare say you can get saved tonight or tomorrow night or Tuesday night. That's not in our power to say that. But within our power is to say, if God's Spirit deals with you tonight, and if you have a rational mind where you can understand God's dealing with you, if you have faculty to respond, and if you will respond, then you can be saved right tonight. But tomorrow night, there might be a handwriting on the wall. Might be too late. You might not be in a gospel meeting anymore. That may be a handwriting. You may not be in church anymore in your life. That might be just as sure as if a handwriting appeared on the wall over there and said it tonight. God knows. We don't. But why not be in time? Why wait for the handwriting on the wall? Why wait for hard judgment? Oh, the people that cry. Broken homes. Wasted lives. Character, reputation gone. All because someone turned their hand like that and said, okay, I won't do it. They might as well have said, yes, I will. Made the right choice, but they made the wrong one. They said, no, no. God said, come, and they went. God said, humble yourselves. They exalted themselves. God said, repent. They said, I'm not sorry. I like it that way. Why not make the wise choice tonight? Why not come home? Why not pray on these altars? Oh, the joy, the blood-washed no. The devil tells you it'll be hard. Jesus Christ says it's easy. His yoke is easy, his burden is light, Jesus said. And the devil says, you'll have a heavy burden. That's not God, that's the enemy of your soul. The devil says, you'll never have another good time. The people who testify say they only began to live when they gave their lives to God. Oh, you want to be well adjusted? You want to be happy? You want to be what you should be? Then pray. Give your life to God tonight. Won't you? We're going to close the meeting. We're going to have an old-fashioned altar service. Yes, a call even yet to come forward an old-fashioned altar. Terminology almost extinct now, but it still works. Still the best way to get saved is to come to an old-fashioned altar and pray. More people have been prayed for around altars than anywhere else. And more have prayed through around these altars than anywhere else. If I ask the people tonight in this tabernacle, that have been saved at home to raise their hand, we'd have several. If I asked those who've been saved on the job to raise their hands, there'd be few perhaps. If I asked people on the street, we heard one testify tonight, got saved on the sidewalk outside the church. But you ask, how many of you prayed through in church? How many were around the altar praying, and you'd see the majority of people here would say, yes, that's me. I was in church praying. See how convenient, how easy, how real, how lasting? So why not pray tonight? Come to the altar. Amen. Don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid. We aren't going to talk you into it. We aren't going to quote a bunch of scriptures to you and tell you now you can take it on faith, you're saved. You can pray and you know the work is done. We won't be trying to get you to join our church. We don't even join around here. We just stay around if we like it. And a bunch of us have liked it for a long, long time. So why don't you try it? Why don't you pray? Come and pray tonight, won't you? If you need something else from God, don't be discouraged. Come and pray. To be sanctified, to get your baptism. But use this privilege now to pray, and don't wait until the deadline is crossed, but say, while God calls me, I'll answer, and your prayer can go through tonight. Won't you pray? We're going to stand and sing. We invite you to come to the altar. Make your way out. As we stand up and start singing, make your way down the aisles. Come and pray. God will hear you. Let's stand and sing.